new location and the new date. So thank you for working with us on that. We felt like we have a real gem in having the East Williamson County Higher Education Center here in Hutto, and so we're grateful to the college for partnering with us so that we could have our luncheons here. We're going to let y'all get back to eating in just a moment, but what I was doing up here on my phone was getting a jump start on the rest of you guys on one of our door prizes. We're actually doing a social media door prize today. So all that we're asking is for you to get onto Facebook, hop onto the Hutto Area Chamber page, scroll down, write something on the wall, the chamber wall on Facebook, not like, you know, the commercial or the lady on the wall, which cracks me up every time. Easily amused, that's me. But anyhow, so if you'll go make a post on the wall, and then at the end of the luncheon, from everybody who has actually done that, we'll actually draw a drawing for a door prize there. And then we'll do a few introductions. First, if you are a member of our board, if you could stand up. And we'll let you introduce yourselves because I kind of get tired of hearing my own voice. So we'll start here with Judy Hayes.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Judy Hayes. I'm on the board of the Chamber, and I'm also the chair for the ambassadors of the Chamber, and I own Happy Hippo Electric. Thank you.
Michael Smith with the City of Hutto.
Aaron Klingeman with the Hutto EDC.
Good morning, afternoon. I'm Hollis Bone with our bank.
Thank you. And I don't know if I introduced myself. Amy Ellsworth with the Community Impact Newspaper. And then, at the risk of repeating some folks, we'll also go to our ambassadors. You already heard from Judy Hayes, who is chair of our ambassadors, but if we could have all of our ambassadors please stand up. These are the folks in our chamber who welcome new members, who are also instrumental in just making sure that everybody is engaging in the chamber to the extent that they desire to do so. So thank y'all very much for your service. So we could have a round of applause for our ambassadors. And then for our elected officials, if you're an elected official, please stand up. Michael Smith, you're not going to get a chance to eat today. So.
Michael Smith with the Hutto City Council.
Kano with the Hutto City Council.
Thank you. We appreciate y'all being with us today. And we'll ask our city manager to stand up and introduce herself as well. Although not elected, we are very appreciative of the city's support.
Karen Daly, city manager.
Thank you. A round of applause for All right, and then hopefully those of you who have joined the chamber in the last 90 days, hopefully you've had enough to put into your belly. And then if you'll join us up here, you get a chance to have a 30-second commercial about your business. Even if you've been with us to another luncheon, if you've joined the chamber in the last 90 days, please feel free to join us. Not everybody at once.
I am Katie. I am the manager of Anytime Fitness in Hutto. Come check us out if you want to get to a healthier place.
Rob Randig with the Prosperity Bank over at Dale Diamond. Glad to be here and look forward to meeting everyone.
Hi, I'm Jason Cohen. This is my wife Toby. We are workers with Keller Williams. Glad to be here.
Hi, I'm Hollis Bone with our bank, and yes, I'm on the board. You join, and the next thing you know, you're on the board. Our bank, we're about a 5-year-old bank with 5 locations here in Central Texas, including our newest location out by the Dale Diamond. Thank you.
So thank y'all very much. And we give new members an opportunity in those first 3 months to come up here so that you become more acquainted with the folks who are in the chamber so that you can make connections. So please reach out to those folks. And if you're able to make some business connections, that would be fantastic.
You could have used the rest of the 30 seconds.
We'll also go over the calendar of events upcoming in March. Just kidding, there's nothing left in March. So moving on to April. By the way, full disclosure, I just got off a plane like 2 hours ago. So I'm saying I'm still on vacation. what it's worth. Oh, no, see, March 26th. See, notes, they're good. So please put this on your calendars. This actually is an event that just got pulled together, so we haven't done any promotion of it yet. We certainly will get it out to you, but Thursday, March 26th, we'll have a networking after hours at 5:30 p.m. It will be at the new R Bank location in front of the Del Diamond, and it will be an event. There will be a ribbon cutting for the R Bank, but then also it's an event for the United Way for their fundraising campaign. So we hope you'll join us on March 26th at 5:30 p.m. Then in April, we do have the Mayor's Breakfast. That will be April 7th at 7:30 a.m. at Rio Grande. And then because of the way the weeks fall this particular month, we're going to get a lot of love in that week because the very next day is the luncheon. That's April 8th, 11:30 a.m. here. So tell your friends because clearly not everybody got the memo of the changing date and location. But we will have a fantastic program. It is the business of baseball, where we will hear from Jake Miller, the president of the Round Rock Express, as well as Greg Miller, the vice president of the Round Rock Express. So be sure to join us next month for that luncheon. And then with that, we'll go to today's program. So back to March 11th. We're really thrilled to actually have Ashby Johnson with us today, the Executive Director of CAMPO, or Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization. CAMPO is the Metropolitan Planning Organization for the 6 counties Central Texas region. Previously, Ashby served as the Deputy MPO Director at the Houston-Galveston Area Council, which is the Metropolitan Transportation Planning Organization for the 8-county Greater Houston region. He was there for the past 11 years. Prior to HGAG, he spent 9 years with the U.S. Department of Transportation in various key planning roles. Mr. Johnson also spent 5 years at the Texas Department of Transportation, working on planning and environmental issues. So if you want to know transportation, you want to know this guy, please join me in welcoming Mr. Ashby Johnson.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. And first, thank you for the invitation to come out and speak to you this afternoon. I've been sort of on the circuit for a little bit for the past month or so. We're in the process of finalizing what's called our 2040 long-range transportation plan. So I've been going around the region to different locations and visiting with people about the plan and what we do at CAMPO. And before I get too far into the presentation, let me just say to you, I don't know what my predecessors did or did not do in terms of coming to Hutto and reaching out to Hutto, but I'm different. If you want to talk to me about things concerning Hutto, I'm happy to come out to visit with you at any time to talk about transportation issues and what CAMPO can do to help you. If you are in town and you want to stop by, please call me. I will make the time to visit with you. So with that, let me launch into the presentation. First, I wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of what the 2040 transportation plan is. Then I'll also go into some priorities I've set for myself for this calendar year. And I'll just say again, these are my priorities. They aren't the ones that necessarily my board set for me. Then lastly, I'll open it up to questions. So to give you a little bit of background, we cover 6 counties. So you can see all the 6 counties here. Right now we have a regional population in those 6 counties of about 1.75 million people, and we're growing very rapidly. In terms of metropolitan transportation planning organizations, they are created across the country for every urbanized area that has more than 50,000 population. So in the state of Texas, we have 25 metropolitan planning organizations, including CAMPO. And then across the country, we have about 415 metropolitan planning organizations. In Texas, we're the 4th largest organization behind San Antonio, just slightly behind San Antonio. In the country, we're the 11th largest in the country, and we're probably in the top 2 or 3 in terms of rapid growth, not just in terms of numbers, but also in percentages. So a little bit about what's the purpose of the Metropolitan Planning Organization. We exist for, in my opinion, for a few basic reasons. We're charged by the federal government with producing what's called a 20-year fiscally constrained long-range plan. So what we have to do is we have to take the data that we can find and work with our partners to get, like TxDOT or the counties, Williamson County, and the cities like Hutto, and we make projections out to the future. So we take the demographic information that we get from the census and other sources, and we have to estimate how much population we think we'll have in the 6-county region out 20 years in the future. Not only do we have to estimate how many people we think we're going to have, we also have to estimate where we think they're going to live and how we think they're going to travel in 20 years. Not an easy task given that people aren't always as logical as you might want to think they are, and the models that do this work are depending on logic as the basis of it. But also, it's difficult to know what technology we might have 20 years in the future. I don't know how many of you are sort of watching lately. There's this whole talk about Elon Musk, who owns SpaceX, and I think he owns Tesla as well. He's been talking about something called the Hyperloop. He's also got a couple of other transportation ideas. Some of those things might come into existence. You know, if they do, they could change the way we move around, not just the region, but across the state and across the country. And it's hard to, with technology changing as fast as it is right now, it's hard to know, but we make a stab at it. Also, we have to forecast revenue out 20 years into the future. This is where the fiscal constraint portion of this document comes into play. So we take the revenue numbers that we get from the local governments, and we also look at past trends in what we receive in federal funds on transportation and what we receive in state funds on transportation, and then we make a projection out 20 years into the future. For those of you that have financial backgrounds and sort of do financial activities on a daily basis, you know that a revenue forecast out more than 5 years is kind of shaky. So I'm saying that to you to say this is a federal mandate that we're doing. Don't look at it as, even though you will see numbers rounded out to 5 decimal places when you do it. Please don't take that as accuracy that we know. It's an estimate, and you're required to do it. And the reason we're required to do it is for a very good reason. Back in the early 90s, before there was a federal transportation bill that was passed, and I'll just give you the short name of it. The short name of it was ICE-T. There was a tendency by states and by organizations like ours to come up with a plan that had all sorts of projects in it that they couldn't possibly pay for. And so when we went out as organizations to the public to explain what we had in those documents, we weren't really being truthful with the public about what was really going to be done and what could be expected to be done in the near term. So there were changes made in the federal law to sort of tighten up on that. And so what this fiscal constraint requirement really is to try to get to a point where there's truth in advertising. Is it foolproof? No, it's not. People still in the system, but it's better than where we were before the early 90s. So also, one of the other things that we're required to do is produce a transportation improvement program. You'll hear it referred to as a TIP when you're in TxDOT circles or other transportation circles. It's a subset of that 20-year plan. So it's the first 4 years of that 20-year plan. Think of it as the action portion of the plan. By the time a project enters the plan and then it works its way up through the system, through the environmental process, real estate acquisition, those kinds of things. And by the time it gets to this 4-year tip, the funding really needs to be locked down. It's got to be ready to go to construction within a 4-year time window of that transportation improvement program. Then the last, and I think one of the most important things we do as an MPO is we provide a location where all the different elected officials here and heads of transportation organizations can come together and set priorities for our region and also allocate scarce funds that we receive on the federal and the state side. So the purpose of the long-range plan itself is to identify strategic investments across the region. Also, we have to make sure that we just don't focus on roads only. We've got to look at transit. We've got to, whether we're talking about bus or rail or other things, we also have to look at bicycle facilities, pedestrian facilities across the region. And we try to do that in a way that's what we call context sensitive to the community. So instead of us coming up with a standard for bicycle facilities or pedestrian facilities, and saying it's a one-size-fits-all across all of these counties, we are now saying, as CAMPA and as staff, that we want to come out and work with you to help you implement things in the way that you think your community would like to see them happen over time. Also, the other purpose of the plan is to try to address the transportation and mobility needs of a rapidly growing region. And then lastly, is there to allocate funding, and that's not something that's done by me or by the people that work with me at Campo. We have a board, and the board, if you look at law, the board is really the Metropolitan Planning Organization. The board is currently 20 people all across the 6-county region. They are county judges, county commissioners, mayors of different cities, and in this case also the person that is the district engineer for TxDOT has a vote on Campo as well. So to give you a little bit of background on what we're dealing with and sort of what we're up against, as I said to you earlier, as of the 2010 census, we had 1.75 million people in the region. By 2040, we are projecting that we will be a little bit over 4.1 million people in the 6-county region, and that's more than doubling. If you look at the way we calculated the demographics, we used information from the state demographer, which is the normal way people do it. And the state demographer has what they call a slow growth rate, then they've got a medium, and then they've got a high. This region chose to use the high variable, and I think that was probably a good choice. If you look back at the rate this region's been growing over the past 20 years, we have been at that high rate for a while. We don't see that changing in the short term or even the long term. So that's why you see a level of population. Now, one of the things I wanted to point out to you, don't just look at 2010 and then look at 2040. Also look at 2010 and 2020. We're in 2015 right now. There's a difference of 617,000 plus people in that 10-year period. We're already halfway into that 10-year period. And from what I've seen so far, we're on pace to hit that number. That's a lot of people in 10 years. And that's a lot of growth that we've got to accommodate in addition to what we're dealing with right now. So this is to give you a sense of the revenue side of the picture. The total in the circle in the middle is the $35 billion that we estimated total for the 20-year planning horizon window, and this is from all sources, from federal, state, local, and you'll see it broken down there. Is that $35 billion enough to address and eliminate congestion in our region? No, it's not. Probably off by at least a factor of 2 or 3. If we were able to, I wish I could tell you what the number would be to eliminate congestion completely. I got in this job about 7 months ago, and this plan was well underway. And so, we're going to go back and do some things after we get it adopted in May. But it would have been nice to have a needs assessment done first, and then I can tell you how short this was or what the difference is between where we need to be and where we are in terms of funding and to address the needs that we have. So what we did as part of the planning process is we developed a bunch of scenarios, and these are sort of what-if things. And you can see the scenarios here. Some make different assumptions, and we turn the crank, and here's what comes out of the other end of the machine. Basically, we came up with what's called a preferred scenario in this instance, and you will see that most of the attention and most of the funding for the 20-year horizon will go towards improvements to I-35. This was a priority that was established by the board of Campo. Also, when we looked at, did some limited look at needs in the long term and the short term, I-35 kept rising to the top over and over again, whether we were talking about us as a region, 6 counties, or as the state, because it's the main freeway running north-south from Mexico to Canada. It kept popping up over and over again. So you'll see $4.25 billion in funding going towards I-35 over the 20-year planning horizon. You'll also see, if you look at the draft plan, you'll see things called group projects. Basically what that means is we're allowed as an organization to group certain categories of things like safety projects, so it would be like intersection improvements, or it could be adding medians on roadways, those sort of things. Because there's so many of them, it's better not to list them all out necessarily, so we put those in an appendix in the back of the group project. You can see there's also improvements on some of the roads on the local, on 100% local side, so it's not just the federal and state funding, and you can see that there's some improvements on the east as well that we try to look at. Then on the transit side of the equation, we estimate about $605 million that will go towards the transit improvements across the 6-county region. So this includes also bicycle and pedestrian activities across the region. So out of all this activity, what's the bottom line? There's no silver bullet that's going to fix congestion in our region. Just looking at expanding roadways alone will not do it. We've got to look at a bunch of different strategies to get to where we think we need to be. So we need to build more infrastructure, whether we're talking about building more roadways or adding lanes on the roadways. We've also got to expand the transit networks that we have, whether we're talking about Cap Metro or we're talking about carts or we're talking about something new. We need to expand all those things, provide more mobility to people as they continue to move here. We also need to take advantage of what we will call mobile strategies. So this will be things like flex time. So instead of everybody going and starting to work at 9 o'clock, either downtown or near downtown, maybe we can get employers to vary the hours a little bit, because what we're seeing when we examine the network here is we're seeing spikes of demand between roughly 7:30 and 9:30 in the morning, and then again from about 4 o'clock till about 6:30 in the evening. And then otherwise, if you look at the demand for the system, there's not much demand in between. So we would like to see, can we take advantage of some of that slack capacity that we have in those off-peak times and get more out of the existing system that we've already put money into. So we're trying to work with employees across the region to get them to let employees to come in a little bit earlier, so they can miss the front end of the traffic, and then they can leave earlier on the back end and miss the afternoon traffic, or vice versa. They might want to let people come in a little bit later and then leave later in the evening, so we can use that tool. Then also we're trying to get what we call behavior changes. So where it makes sense for folks to use transit or either walk or bike to accomplish their activities, we want to do that. Then also one of the biggest, one of the strategies we have that can make the most difference is something that actually Campbell cannot control, and it's called land use. So when we went through our scenarios and we looked at what differences land use can make, this is something we did when I was in Houston still. We made a 1%, we made an assumption of a 1% change in land use, and it had a 7% improvement on congestion. And the reason it had an improvement rate that was like that was because when you change some of the land use assumptions, you can make it where people don't have to drive as far to get to work, so you've got the jobs closer where people live, then it starts to make a big difference in terms of demand of the system. So we also looked at some other things that we want to encourage as well, and we're trying through the local governments. So intelligent transportation system, this really is talking about things like traffic signal timing, improving the timing on major arterials through the region, so that instead of you going from one light to the next light, you're going from red light to red light, you actually time the signals to where you can get more green on all of them going through, and you can get what's called a platoon. You can go through faster, and you can get to where you're going faster. Also, one of the other things that I am trying to bring with me from Houston is we had a program that was called Houston Transtar, and also it was also known as Safe Clear. what that means is when you have an accident on a major freeway, we had a contract with tow truck operators because we tended to see the accidents at the same places every day for the peak periods. So we knew where they were going to be, more or less. So what we did is we contracted with some tow companies. We pre-positioned them at those spots. And there were cameras on the freeway. So once that wreck was detected on camera back in the central location, that tow truck operator had 6 minutes to clear that wreck off the road. And they did. Now, some might be wondering, why do we have a contract with tow truck operators? Let me tell you why we did that. Because before that, what was happening was the wreck would be detected. The tow truck operators are sitting there with their radios, they hear it, and then 7 of them run to the same location to try to get the tow. And they were blocking the road. They were also causing secondary accidents. So we figured by saying we're going to give one company the contract for this one location, all of that stopped, so nobody else could go to that, no other tow truck operator could go to that location. That tow truck operator was also required to be trained in our way of clearing the freeway. So we were able to see huge advantages in travel time improvements by doing that. We also had a heavy duty tow operator, so somebody that could tow 18-wheelers if they jackknifed or stalled or whatever the case was. They were also given, not 6 minutes, but they were given more like 25 to 30 minutes if there was a hazardous material spill. They were given a certain amount of time to get that truck back up and off the freeway so we could get moving. The reason why a program like this is important is because if you look at the causes of congestion, not just in Houston, but also here in Austin, about 44% of the congestion we experience every day as commuters in this region is due to accidents and stalls on the freeway. It's not just volume. So one of the studies we did in Houston on this issue, we found that for every dollar we spent on an activity like Safe Clear or TransStar, we got a $34 return. And so I think that's low-hanging fruit that we need to take advantage of. Also, we want to look at improving access management. So in some cases, this means not so many driveways coming out onto a major roadway like 79. It may mean consolidating some of those driveways so that what happens is once you have traffic going down the road, if you have a bunch of people turning in and out of driveways, it interrupts the flow of the traffic. So if you can reduce the interruptions to the flow, you can improve the flow on the system. So we want to work with the government to see what we can do to help with that. Also, we have 2 major arterials that come together at an intersection. A lot of times folks have to sit and wait to turn left or go right or whatever the case may be. If we can grade separate those 2, traffic can keep flowing in both directions. So we want to look for key opportunities to make those changes as well. Then intersection improvements. I was taught in planning school and engineering school that the road is only as good as the intersections. So if the intersections don't function well, then the rest of the system really won't function well. So in that case, you have to look at making dedicated left turn lanes where they're needed or dedicated right turn lanes. Also, you might need to widen out the intersections in general so you can get people through them. Then lastly, land use planning, which I've already talked to you about. Then on the demand or behavioral side, we also want to look at trying to make public transportation more attractive to people for those trips that they can make using public transit. And I'll give you an example of that. We've got right now some study work going on with TxDOT on 35, where first they're looking at adding some what we call general purpose lanes or free lanes in each direction. But they're also going to have some space in the center that they're still examining what to do with those lanes that will go in the center. And it's possible it could be toll lanes or managed lanes, as they're called. And we have managed lanes going in now on Mopac, for those of you that have driven over there lately. And we're about to have managed lanes going in on 183 northbound out towards the Hilton in probably a couple of years. The advantage to managed lanes is if you're on transit, you don't pay that fee. The buses are exempt from the fee. And if you're going from point A to point B, now you aren't sitting on a bus that's stuck in the middle of traffic with everybody else. You're on something that's moving quickly. You know how long it's going to take you to go from point A to point B. We've got real-world examples of this. We made changes when I was in Houston. We made changes to I-10 Katy Freeway going west from downtown out to Katy. not only did we add lanes, general purpose lanes, we also added managed lanes in the center. So we have now 2 lanes going west all day and 2 lanes going east all day. And we already had parking right lots that were out there on Katy Freeway. They were being used, but not very well, and not a whole lot of folks. Well, when we put those managed lanes in, those buses now had access to get in, they didn't have to pay. And you knew how long it was going to take me to go from Grand Parkway to get to Galleria. It was the same every day. We saw transit ridership, bus ridership go up about 60%. In the space for about a year, they were using, Houston Metro was using shared parking lot spaces with like movie theaters and other people. They now have to go and find land to put structured parking in out there because the demand is so high for that service. I think we can have the same thing here in Austin with the managed lanes that we have going in on 183, Mopac, and potentially on 35. Then we also have some programs that we use to encourage van pooling and ride sharing. You'll see on our webpage a program called Commute Solutions where we help with that activity. And then we also try to help local governments with bicycle pedestrian facilities, whether we're talking about adding dedicated bike lanes or shared lanes or bike paths. And then I've already talked about telework and flex time. So where are we in terms of the development of the 2040 plan? Well, we actually had the draft document that was produced actually about a week ago. We got that done. We took it to the board. Actually, today is Wednesday. Thank you. We took it to the board Monday. How I forget that 4-hour meeting, I'm not sure. We took it to the board Monday for their review. We also on March the 2nd, we opened up a 30-day public comment period that's going to end April 2nd. And I would invite all of you to go to our website, campotexas.org, and we've got an online survey on there. We appreciate it if y'all will fill it out. Also, you can take a look at the entire draft plan on there if you want to. There are hot links on there for it. So once the public comment period is over, what we're going to do as staff is we're going to compile all those comments, and where we've got comments that we think will necessitate a change to the plan, we will make those changes to the plan and then present them to the board so they can see the old and the new beside each other and make the decisions about what to keep and what not to keep. And then we will come back again at the May meeting of this year and ask the board to approve the final plan, and we can move forward with that. Now, what happens if we don't make the May deadline? Because we actually have a firm deadline that's given to us by the federal government that we have to meet. If we don't meet the deadline, we go into what's called a planning freeze. What that means is that we can only advance projects that are in the current 2035 plan and the current 2015 to 2018, I think I said the right years, 2015 to 2018 Transportation Improvement Program. By and large, that means something to me and not necessarily you. Let me tell you what it means to you. In November of last year, we had a state proposition, a bond proposition that was on for transportation that passed by over 80-some-odd%. As a region, we received about $120 million in what's called Proposition 1 funds to make improvements to the roadways in our region. They can only be used on roads and non-toll roads. And so we have dedicated most of that $120 million to improvements on 35 that we can start towards the end of this year. Also to a little piece of 71 over at 95, right in front of the Buc-ee's, that little bad spot that's there. We're going to work on that. But here's the piece that where it impacts our region. Houston and Dallas are having some difficulty with some air quality issues, and they may not be able to have all of their Proposition 1 funding obligated by the deadline that TxDOT has set for us later this year. If they cannot meet the deadline, that means some of that money will be freed up and moved to other parts of the state. If that money's freed up, I want us to be in a position to take advantage of it and spend it. So if we can't amend our plan, because what happens is if we go into a freeze, we can't change the plan at all. So if we can't amend the plan, then we can't take advantage of that money. So I want to make sure that we're in a position to take advantage of that money if something should become available. And that reminds me also, I don't want to give anybody the impression that once we've laid this plan out and you see a project that's listed there and it's got a year beside it that it's going to go to construction, that doesn't mean that's a hard and fast number. Projects can move up, so they can come forward years, they can also move backwards years. It just depends on how quickly the sponsor can come up with funding. You know, we've seen things move from, for example, the 71 project I just mentioned to you at 95, that was originally listed in 2020 to start construction work. Because we found funding, it moved to 2015. Those things can happen, so don't think it's a hard and fast thing. We change the plan all the time. So it's a guide, don't think of it as an absolute. Just a little bit about some of my priorities for 2015. I want to do everything I can to help find additional funding for our region, whether it's federal money or state money or private money or whatever the case may be. I want to see what I can do so we can really get moving on some activities here to get folks out of traffic. Also, I want to work on with the local government expanding operations and management, and this is going back to the Houston TransStar type thing I mentioned to you earlier, and the traffic signal timing, and I'm talking to TxDOT and the local governments about that now. Also, I want to help strengthen our regional partnership, and what this means is sometimes folks ask me, oftentimes folks ask me, why is it that Dallas seems to get more money than the other MPOs across the state? Well, Dallas does a very good job of coming into town, whether they're talking to the TxDOT Commission or they're talking to the legislature. They speak from the same page, same sheet music when they come to town. That hasn't always been the case. So it makes a difference. In the past, we've had a reputation as a region of, especially with TxDOT and some of the legislature, of not having our act together, as they will put it, because one person will go and say one thing and somebody else will go and contradict them. So I see it as part of my job to help make sure that as the board moves forward, they're all saying the same thing as much as we possibly can. Doesn't mean that there aren't going to be disagreements as we move forward. There will be. I want to make us more like Dallas in the sense of that those differences we keep at home and we work them out at home. And when we go to the legislature or we go to the commission, we're all talking about what we agree on, not what we disagree on. Also, I want to start taking a look at major roadways, not freeways, but arterials in the region, and then trying to prioritize those arterials, because we've got a bunch of them that connect up in spots. I'd say, 1431 or other, what I would call major arterials like that. Let's prioritize those arterials, and in some cases where it makes sense, we want to look and see, can we put mass transit on some of those routes to make it easier to get from one side of the region to the other, or north-south of the region. Also, making improvements in terms of intersection improvements and pedestrian bicycle improvements on those routes. I'm trying to find ways. Right now, we have a bunch of short trips that are loading up on the freeways, not because they want to be on the freeways, because they don't have another choice. Right now, we have a bunch of arterials that don't connect up. And I want to see where we can make those connections that make sense. And we can get some of those short trips off the road. Most folks don't have to get on the freeway and go out of their way just to go from point A to point B. And this is another case of trying to make better use of the money. It costs far less to put in lanes of arterials than it does to put in lanes of freeway. So with that, I'm trying to just get more out of what we got on the ground now. So with that, I'll stop and ask for questions or comments. Yes, sir.
What's the single biggest bang for our buck that we can get to reduce congestion in the greater Austin area?
I'm going to repeat the question for those of you that didn't hear it. The question was, what is the single biggest bang for the buck that we can get to reduce congestion in the Austin region? And I'm giving you an opinion at this point. I would say right now the tool that we have available to us would be the traffic signal timing and the incident management activities, the TransStar type activities that I mentioned to you earlier. I think that's the biggest bang by far that we can get. Yes, sir.
You mentioned the Clean Air Act. Can you tell us if we get in non-compliance, what it means to this area?
Yes, sir, I can. Right now, we're in what's called attainment for air quality for our region. We're on the cusp of it, though. To be out of attainment is painful. I went through that in Houston. Basically, what it means is we would only be able to, we would have to go through what's called a conformity process. Every year as a region, it would be something that I would have to look at every project that's put forth in the region and determine whether or not that project is going to add to air quality problems, whether we're talking about ozone or CO2 in the region. And it really slows down the process of getting roads built. Now, some would say, and I'm not one of them, some would say on the plus side that we would now start to receive what's called congestion mitigation air quality funds from TxDOT to help with those issues, so it would be a new source of funding. Well, we gain a lot more problems than we get in funding. So anything we can do to help stay out of non-attainment is not only a dollar saved, but time saved as well. In general, just doing the conformity process, just running the model, is about 8 months by itself if you're not doing anything else. And that's coordinating with the state and everybody else. And it really puts a limit on how many lanes we can put out there that can be used for what's called single occupant vehicle travel. So we really would be restricted on what we can put in. And we'd have to run through a whole new process of getting federal approval, not just on our air quality, but for the first time, once that kicks in, we would have to have federal approval of our long-range transportation plan. Right now, we are not required to have federal approval of our long-range plan. Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Well, thank you again. That was very informative, and those numbers, every time I hear them, they're still just staggering in terms of the growth that we're going to experience here. So now we're on to the fun part, door prizes. Not that your presentation, Mr. Johnson, was not fun. But everybody loves free stuff, let's be honest. So, but before we get to the door prizes, as they're bringing some lists up to me, now that you've had a chance to enjoy the meal, what did y'all think? If we want to thank our students for bringing us phenomenal job. As a reminder, this semester they are open on Thursdays for lunch, so if you'd like to try that out again. Okay, so we've got 3 different door prizes. We've got a Scentsy basket, right?
Correct.
Okay, I don't see a basket. Oh, basket, here.
It's a box.
It's a box.
It's a box.
So you've got a Scentsy basket, we've got Louis Miller gift card for
$25.
$25, and then we've got Stars tickets. And so what we'll do is whoever gets the pre-registration
What's
gets to
pre-registration?
pick. Oh, pre-registration. So in an effort to find out who's showing up to these lovely lunches a little bit ahead of time, because if you're anything like me, it's the day before and you're like, oh my word, I need to register. And so we're trying to encourage y'all to do that ahead of time. And so anybody who registers by close of business on Monday, the week of our lunches, will be put into a special drawing. Aren't you excited? I mean, come on, nothing? Nothing. Wow. All right, tough crowd. So whoever gets picked out of this can pick from the 3 door prizes which one they want to receive. Jay Hoffman, Eagle Office. Scentsy basket.
Tickets. All right.
Thank you for registering.
All right, and then this is social media.
All right, social media. So for those of you who are not listening to the presentation, instead we're on social media. No. I'm going to Joseph Ayala. Is that a Y?
Joseph Javier Al.
I'm not sure if he's here. He liked one of the photos.
Oh, so
Nice.
He liked my photo.
Nice. Really? All right. I said count it. All right.
that's effective social media. That's even better. So Scentsy or Louis Mueller?
Louis Mueller.
All right.
Thank you.
us who you are.
Oh, I'm Leslie Levy with On Technology Consultants. We are an IT company, Writing Taylor, and we do managed IT services. So we're one step of the guy that you call to come in for an hour. We monitor your system all the time.
Excellent. Congratulations. And then I swear this is not rigged, and it's not my own because I don't even enter anymore because I don't get to win. But Megan Mish from Community Impact Newspaper. What do you like now? Thank you again for being here. If you're a guest with us today, thank you so much for being here. For folks who are members, please look for those new faces in the room. Linger for a few more minutes, and we hope to see you at the next event. Thanks so much. At After Hours.